First of all, it's so great to see you all. After such a long period working remotely, not having face-to-face meetings, it is great to see everyone looking so well and being here today, so thank you for your time. Just to give you a few of the domestics, obviously today is an information meeting. It's our opportunity as an NEC to feed back to you and tell you what we've been doing on your behalf for the past 2 years. Certainly since the pandemic hit us. It's non-decision making. It's just a chance for us to feed back to you. There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions of the NEC rep who's fed back to you. Just get hold of them at lunch or at tea breaks. And if there's anything that is concerning to you and pressing, then send us an email so we can get you a thorough reply back. But you will have an opportunity to liaise with us and ask us any questions. But we have got a packed agenda and I need to move it forward because I know people are travelling home today, so we need to get you away. We've got guests at the back, employee relations are here, and Richard Vince is the director of the High Security Estate. He'll be addressing you just before lunch to tell you what the future plans are for regimes from a HMPPS perspective. So that's about it for the setup of it. I guess I just want to start by sincerely saying to you, thank you so much for absolutely everything you've done during what is a really distressing and tumultuous 18 months. There's no blueprint for a global pandemic. And I think sometimes things were made up on the hoof, which is fine because when Boris announced to the nation way back in March that we had to stay at home, we were locking the nation down, only key workers could go to work, HMPPS wanted to carry on as normal for as long as they could. We forcefully said to them, no chance. Boris has announced a national lockdown. Prisons are petri dishes for disease. If COVID comes into our jails, it'll spread like wildfire. And credit to them, Phil Coppell, 24 hours later, was on the phone to me saying, that's fine, we're going to lock our jails down. Let's work together to get through this. And that was the day I put all our differences aside because it was the right thing to do. We need to work in partnership. We need to get through this pandemic as safely as we can, and we need to protect prisoners and staff. And that's what we've done. That's what you've done. And I know it's been difficult. I know you haven't had the answers to all the questions that flew your way. I know the stresses and strains you've been under. Where's my PPE? I know the risks you've taken. I know the anxiety you've gone through, not knowing what you're taking home to your loved ones. And from day one, we wanted PPE, but we were consistently told by the employer that the advice they got from Public Health England was, you don't need it at this time, you've got enough mitigations in place. Hand washing, social distancing. Well, we all know social distancing is impossible in our environment. We then met with the Secretary of State at the time, who was Robert Buckland, and we said we need PPE. And credit to him, at a time when the NHS were running out of PPE, ours was flying into the country and we were getting issued with it. But we wanted it from day one, and it wasn't until the October that Public Health England suddenly realised that we did need that protection in place. We were the only public sector workforce to get bonus payments, to get incentive schemes. Nurses never got it, firefighters never got it, police never got it, paramedics never got it, we did. And I know it's not a lot, £150 a month just for turning up for work is not enough. And I know the bonus payments was not enough for working in that environment under those conditions, but it was better than any other public sector workforce. We even managed to get members at the very start of the pandemic free accommodation. If they didn't want to live at home, Centre Parks, what an ethical company they are, gave us free accommodation. And we could access their sites throughout the country. And over 100 POA members actually did. something else for us to be proud of. So I want you to be proud of the job you've done, because I couldn't be prouder of you. You've all done so well, and I can't commend you or praise you enough. It's just a pity that that isn't reflected by the government, because as we all know, hand clapping and thanks in Parliament just don't pay the bills. Interestingly enough, just to highlight what a fantastic job you've all done, and your members. At the start of the pandemic, the indications were from the experts, SAGE, Public Health England, all the scientists, that we will see at least 2,700 prisoner deaths. 2,700. Didn't have a prediction for staff. As I stand here now, we've had 159 prisoner deaths, and unfortunately 37 of our colleagues have perished. That is a testament to the risks you've placed upon yourselves to keep those in your care safe, and a testament to the job you do on the front line, and I thank you for it. When we look at the lessons we've learned during COVID, yeah, it's no surprise violence has reduced, because prisoners have been locked up a lot more. But surprisingly, self-harm reduced as well, particularly in the male estate. That's because prisoners were telling you all that they felt safer, because when they were unlocked, they were in smaller groups, with the same people, with more staff around. That has got to be the key to our success moving forward. And you have got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make your jails safe. Please don't lose that opportunity. We will support you, we will back you, we will get in your jails and sit down with your SMT if you are in dispute. The lessons are smaller cohorts, more staff around to meet prisoners' needs, to get to know them, and to deal with any violent episodes that erupt. That's the key. We've got to move away from full wing unlock. What's the point? We don't need to. I would much rather have 6 staff supervising 60 prisoners than 6 staff supervising 120. We need those relationships back on track so we can know what makes people tick, and they're confident that we can keep them safe. That's the key. Association. Why do we need to give them ping pong and pool? Aimlessly hanging over railings, being bored, or playing pool. We're actually giving them weapons. I've read the Daily Report over the last couple of weeks, and there's been staff had noses broken with pool cues. Now, I'm not saying to you, this is what you should be doing. What I'm saying to you is, think about what you've done in the past, and think about what you want to do in the future. Review your safe systems of work, your risk assessments, and decide, is it safe for my jail to put on these activities? And if it's not, then don't put them on. Challenge your SMT over that. You'll all have the violence stats available to you in your prison. There might be some estates, the open estate, the female estate, the youth estate, where activities like that are safe to put on. That's down to you. You know your own jail's best. But what I'm saying is, we'll never criticise you for what you do, but this is your opportunity to agree safe regimes, safe unlock numbers, and safe staffing levels. And we will be there to back you to the hilt. So please take that opportunity. And if you can't agree, contact your NEC rep and get them in, and let's sit down and sort it out. Please don't think that the positive industrial relations we've now got with the employer is a sign of weakness, because I'll tell you something now, this boy ain't ever going to change. And neither are the NEC. They are there for you to make sure that we're as safe as we possibly can be. And if you don't believe me, ask the guys at the back in employee relations, because we haven't stopped challenging them. Just because we're getting on well and it's positive doesn't mean we stop challenging them. We still have our fallouts, but we get it sorted. So if we can sit down at the top level and sort out our issues, you can as well. And I know how difficult at times that is. I just want to touch on raises. Over the past couple of months, we've had some truly shocking and horrendous assaults on staff from prisoners who fashioned razors into weapons. We've been asking for at least 4 years for our employer to get rid of razors from jails and replace them with something safer. We've actually had a successful pilot scheme at Whitemore where they've replaced wet razors with the electric type, and there hasn't been any issues at all. At this moment in time, HMP are reluctant to do that. They're putting on more pilots. I mean, they've got more pilots than Ryanair, HMP, they really have. They're putting on more pilots, they're going to analyse more data, they're going to bring more reports to the table. That's not good enough. I mean, in America, they've got problems with gun laws. If you could change the gun law in America to stop one atrocity, does it not make sense to do it? If you can get rid of razors in every jail to stop one member of staff being disfigured mentally and physically for life, why would you not do that? It just makes no sense to me. So what I'm saying is, please, I know what it's like. The con comes into the staff office, give us some razors, boss, there you go, kids, take a handful, off you go. Please get the issue and return of razors right. Back in the day, it was 1 for 1. I know how difficult it is to do that, but get it right. Review your safe systems of work. Review how you issue razors. Review how you get those razors returned. If you're doing AFCs and you see more than one razor, an excessive amount, confiscate them. Let's try and protect each other as much as we can until we finally convince our employer to remove razors in their entirety. That's what we want. So please, just have a look at that. I need to touch on social media, and in particular, racism, because it is an issue, colleagues. It really is. And I think racism is a bit like years ago when nobody wanted to talk about mental health. It was a taboo subject. You wouldn't have a member of staff, one of your colleagues, sitting in a tea room with their head in a hand saying, I need help, I can't cope. But you'll get that now because we've talked about it. We've been open and honest with each other about it, and we've sorted out those issues, and we've got lots of support in place now. Trim teams, care teams, we've got psychologists and psychiatrists, we've got a lot of support at the moment. Still not enough, still not ideal, but better than it was. Racism is similar. I mean, me and Steve Gillen got the height of abuse because we dared to post on a POA Facebook account a Stand Against Racism campaign who were advertising an event. We never asked any POA member to do anything. Not a thing. We just supported an anti-racism campaign who were asking people to take the knee on this date at this time. I couldn't care less if you take the knee or not. But if you're going to slag people off for taking a knee, at least know what it's all about. Do your research. And the same people who give me and Steve the height of abuse are probably the same people who at 2 to 3 every Saturday afternoon worship their heroes who are taking a knee before kick-off. How do you think your colleagues feel reading those comments, especially if they're from a minority group? These are the people who will respond to alarm bells when we're getting our heads kicked in, jump in the middle to save us. Why? Because they're part of our family, they're our colleagues. The POA will always stand against racism, bigotry, discrimination, any form of sexism. I don't care what colour your skin is. I don't care what sexual orientation you are, what gender you are. I don't care what religion you are. If you are in the POA, if you work with me on the Landons, you are part of my family. And this union, under my leadership, will never stay silent about this topic. And we will root out and we will kick out the racists, because we need to eradicate our workplace from all forms of bigotry and racism, and we need to eradicate society. So let's get together and let's eradicate it. Let's root them out and let's kick them out. It's unacceptable. These are our colleagues and we stand shoulder to shoulder with them. I just briefly want to mention pensions. The campaign still goes on. We've reinvigorated the 68 is too late campaign. Please get in touch with your local MPs, especially if they've got a prison in their constituencies, and invite them in and walk them around your work environment. If you can, show them a demonstration of a planned removal for CNR and just pose them one question. Could you do that, age 68? Because the answer will be no. We've actually got a case going to court in January over the pensions detriment, which involves our colleagues who've been medically retired. They should be able to access their legacy schemes now, and the government are stopping them. We're taking the government to court in January. But the pensions, we're relying on you to reinvigorate our fight for a retirement age of 60. Now, the door has not been closed by this government on pensions. Myself and Steve recently met Victoria Atkins, the new Prisons Minister. Very direct person, very abrupt person. I can do business with someone like that because I know where to stand. I haven't got a problem with it. And she said the door is not closed on pensions. She was very receptive to everything that we said. She took on board everything that we said. And it is an issue. It is an issue. We are a frontline, uniformed public service. We cannot work in that environment in our late 60s. They have to recognise our uniqueness. They have to recognise our workplace environment, the violence we face, and they have to put it right. And we will keep on pressing that. We've got a lot of cross-party support for this. But we'll get even more if you get your local MPs into your jails. Because the more pressure that we put on Treasury to sit down with us and sort this mess out, the better. And we're relying on you to do that. I just want to mention communication. We've been criticised in the past because you're telling us we don't communicate enough with you. I really don't think there's much more we can do. You can contact NEC reps, text, phone calls, emails, FaceTime, WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, Zoom. We've got podcasts, we've got videos. We put out circulars. I really don't think there's much more we can do. But if there is, let us know. But you know, communication is a two-way street. And we will be asking you for some really important information from your branches that we need back in a timely manner. You need to provide it. Please provide what we ask for. I've recently asked for information about how many resignations you've had since the beginning of the year, because that helps us with pay submissions. Because when HMP put their stats in, they're not always accurate. So if we can give a true reflection of the amount of resignations that you're having in your jails, we can present them, and it helps us prove that the attrition rate is so pathetic because we're not paid enough, which leads me nicely on to the pay award. Colleagues, what more can I say about the derisory and insulting pay offer? 250 quid for those earning less than 24k a year. And even more concerning and even sadder is every band 2 and 3 in F&S got that award. So every band 2 and 3 in F&S earns less than 24 grand a year. For the job we do, 250 quid. That won't even cover your energy bills. Everything's going up. Fuel, energy bills, cost of living, food, your national insurance contributions. The only thing that's going down is your standard of living. And I just want to dispel a few myths about the pay review body. We made a tough decision as an executive that we would go against conference policy and we would submit evidence to this pay review body. And that's because we think we're acting in the best interests of the entire membership by doing that. This pay review body is totally different to any other pay review body we've experienced. The first year they gave us an award, it was 2.75%. The government refused to enact that in full. They give us 2.5 and a 0.25% non-consolidated payment. Last year, they recommended £3,000 for Band 3 F&S, which would have closed that gap between them and closed grades. would have given them a well-deserved pay rise and would have helped us retain them. The government refused that. We've actually got a court appeal date in December. So we're hoping to still judicially review the government about that decision. We've got an oral hearing in December. And this year, this is what happened this year, because I was as angry and frustrated as you all about that pay award. This year, they wanted to meet us, the chair wanted to meet us after the pay review submissions had been published. And he explained to us exactly what had gone on. They were told by the government, you can only recommend what we've agreed. What we've agreed is the £250 uplift for those earning less than 24k, a movement to the next pay point if you're not on pay maxima, and we've agreed with HMPPS the 4% rise for bands 7 to 11. They told me they were stopped legally by the government from recommending anything else. They even took their own legal advice because they wanted to challenge the government, because they wanted to put back in those submissions the £3,000 pay award. They were stopped. They couldn't do it. And their legal advice confirmed the government are quite within their rights to do that. How sickening is that? You've got an independent body of people who have been prevented from acting independently by the government, and the government legally can do it. It takes away their independence, and it's certainly not a compensatory measure for us not having the right to strike. And that's why we're going to submit evidence to them again, because we believe this pay review body is independent. They're not our enemies, and they will work on the evidence that we present. And that's why it's so important for you to communicate with us and tell us the true reflection and the true picture in your presence. And we'll do that. And let's see what happens in next year's pay round, what's recommended. And then you've got the option of conference next year. If you don't want us to do it, condemn us for doing it and tell us not to do it, and we won't do it. But we thought the time was right. The independent review panel are right. They are the right people. They are trying to be independent. They've just been stifled. And then when I hear people say it, well, what are the NEC going to do about it? We haven't had a pay rise for years. This is unacceptable. Well, I'm pleased to announce this is what we're going to do about it. We are going to ballot the OSGs for industrial action up to and including strike action, starting with an indicative ballot through the workplace. And that's why when we send the notice out to you, the circular, we need that information back. So when we reach the threshold for a formal ballot, we can legitimise it and we can get past those restrictions that are in place. But we're starting with an indicative ballot because it's right that the only section of our workforce that has the right to strike should get that choice. These are the lowest paid of our members. We've never done it before. But they should have the right to make that choice and tell us as an executive, you know what, yes, we've had enough, we're fed up, we're not paid enough, we're not respected enough, we're going to do it, we want to do it. Or they should say, you know what, not at this time, we're not ready. That's fine, but they should get that choice. So you can go back to the haters and the critics and you can tell them, that's what the NEC are doing about it, and we now need you to support the OSGs, because you know what's coming. You know what's coming, the threats, the intimidation, the misinformation. Oh, think about the money you're going to lose if you go on strike. Oh, you won't pass your probation if you go on strike. Oh, we won't fast track you to a prison officer if you go on strike. It's all coming their way. You need to show your support for our OSG colleagues and encourage them to take part in the workplace indicative ballot. Finally, colleagues, it has been a horrendous time. I look upon COVID a bit like cancer. We all know someone who's had COVID. We've all lost someone who's had COVID. And we've lost friends, family, colleagues. And I think that we should honour them. And I would just like you, as I finish off, to join me standing to observe a minute's silence in remembrance of everyone, including our work colleagues, who we've lost. If you'd stand for a minute's silence, I'd be eternally grateful. And we will start that silence now. Thank you, colleagues. So I'm going to move the agenda now. All that remains for me to finish off with is, once again, you're all doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for your support for us as an NEC. Thank you for everything you do. We're here for you, and we always will be. Solidarity to you all.